spotlight on Dorothy Fields. What an incredible female lyric writer. In her almost 50-year career, she contributed lyrics to over 400 songs. She wrote lyrics for over 19 Broadway shows. She was the librettist with her brother Herbert for 9 Broadway shows, including Cole Porter's Something for the Boys and Mexican Hayride, and Annie Get Your Gun by Irving Berlin. Here are some of the titles of her musicals: Up in Central Park, Sigmund Romberg; A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, Arthur Schwartz; Redhead, Albert Haig; and my favorite, Sweet Charity by Cy Coleman. Here's a few titles that you probably know. I Can't Give You Anything But Love, Baby. On the Sunny Side of the Street, I'm in the Mood for Love. Pick Yourself Up, A Fine Romance, I Won't Dance, and that Academy Award-winning title, The Way You Look Tonight, If My Friends Could See Me Now, and what about Hey Big Spender? Now you might go, well, why don't I know about Dorothy Fields? And the short answer is, she was never really associated full-time with one composer, like Lerner and Lowe, Rodgers and Hart, the Gershwin brothers, Rodgers and Hammerstein. She was kind of a single agent, worked with many, many different composers. So I think she shares the place with other amazing lyric writers like Yip Harburg, who wrote Over the Rainbow, and Johnny Mercer, Moon River. And I'll tell you, what about that composer, Mozart, who wrote The Marriage of Figaro and Don Giovanni? Well, he didn't write the libretto. Who did that? Of course, it was Lorenzo da Ponte. And a quick note, libretto, from the Italian word libro, which means book. Etto is a diminutive, so it's a little book for a musical. Here's another theory. I really believe that we hear music and lyrics in different parts of our brain. On a very sort of energetic level, we hear da 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 da. But then sort of in an intellectual place in our brain, we hear, if my friends could see me now, that little gang of mine, eating fancy chow and drinking fancy wine. That's kind of a different place. So I really believe that we hear it, the music, in a very passionate place. And that's why we always think of the composer. Here's a often quoted anecdote. Dorothy Hammerstein and Dorothy Rogers. Dorothy Rogers was the wife of Richard Rogers, and Dorothy Hammerstein was the wife of Oscar Hammerstein. They were at a party one day, and Dorothy Rogers said, you know, my husband wrote Old Man River. And Dorothy Hammerstein came over, excuse me, Dorothy, I think your husband wrote da, 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 da. It was my husband, Oscar Hammerstein, who wrote Old Man River. Incidentally, Dorothy Fields, Dorothy Hammerstein, Dorothy Rogers. Did you know that Dorothy was one of the most popular names at the turn of the century for ladies? Even more impressive than her incredible outpouring of music and librettos is that she worked for almost 50 years. She never burned out. In fact, the day that she died, she was at a rehearsal for a touring company of Seesaw, was going to take a nap and then head out for a fundraiser. Very, very busy lady. Later in life, when she was being interviewed by Rex Reed, he asked her if she has any plans for retirement. And she said, are you crazy? Listen, honey, I've got songs coming out of me I haven't even thought about yet. I plan to write till I can no longer hold a pencil. So this reminds me of an article I read years ago in the New York Times by columnist Robert Marshall. The name of the title of the article was called, What If Mozart Lived Longer? Now, as you probably know, Mozart died at the young age of 35, and he had stacks of projects he didn't finish. Of course, when he died, he hadn't finished his famous Mozart Requiem, and his student, Franz Süssmayr, finished it, and that's what we use today. And we look and we ponder, he probably would have worked on an opera on Goethe's Faust, and he had plans to live in England. But we also know that some people stop composing when they're later in life. For instance, the opera composer Gioacchino Rossini, the composer of The Barber of Seville, stopped writing everything at age 37. Albert Einstein stopped writing any important theses after he turned 46, and after he wrote The Tempest, William Shakespeare never wrote another thing and just tended to his garden. In addition to Dorothy Fields, there were other female lyric writers at the time. There was Dorothy Donnelly, who wrote the lyrics with Sigmund Romberg for The Student Prince and Maytime. Also, female lyricist Anne Caldwell worked with Jerome Kern on the Marilyn Miller vehicle, Sally. So here's a little way to describe Dorothy's lyrics. They were colloquial, not very formal. They were urbane. They were refined in manner. Sometimes she used slang. Sometimes they were very sensuous. So she says, what a person feels translates into what a person says, which translates into what a person means. She was very interested in words, their meaning, their sounds, and the way they are used and misused. She said, always start with the idea, go for what you mean to say, and don't follow the rhymes. Listen to a little bit of what Dorothy Fields has to say about this.
The song just doesn't come on. I've always had to tease it out, squeeze it out, and anyone that tells you that a song is something that's an inspiration, I hate that word, or a magic spark or an IBM machine gets you going, it's got to prove that one to me. It's hard slave labor. Ask anyone who writes, it's slave labor, and I love it.
Now, Dorothy Fields came from a very famous family. Her father was Lou Fields of Weber and Fields, one of the biggest headlines in vaudeville and on Broadway. He was a very successful performer, so she had an insight on the way the business worked. Now, I'd like to think of Dorothy Fields' career in 4 different sections. First of all, her work on Tin Pan Alley. Then her work in Hollywood, her work as a librettist, and finally, her work on Broadway musicals. Dorothy worked with such amazing composers. Jimmy McHugh, Jerome Kern, Arthur Schwartz, Sigmund Romberg, Harold Arlen, Harry Warren, Burton Lane, Cy Coleman, and even Quincy Jones. The first composer she ever worked with was a family friend. His name was J. Fred Coots. He was a professional songwriter. Perhaps you know You Go to My Head, a very famous jazz song. And of course, everybody knows his most popular song, You Better Watch Out, You Better Not Cry, You Better Not Pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. So she worked with him, and they decided to sell some of their songs around Tin Pan Alley. They went to Mills Publishing Company, and they met somebody named Jimmy McHugh. Jimmy McHugh was a Boston-based song plugger living in New York. And he was also part manager of the company, and he instantly enjoyed her lyrics. He had one bit of advice for her. He said, you're trying to write up to the people, and I told her you should write down. Give them what they understand. So Jimmy McHugh and Dorothy Fields were a songwriting team for over 10 years, from 1927 to 1937. Their biggest hit was I Can't Give You Anything But Love, Baby. And interesting enough, it was one of the top 100 recorded songs from 1890 to 1954. Another big hit by Jimmy and Dorothy, On the Sunny Side of the Street. Stephen Sondheim said about Sunny Side of the Street, It's just a perfect lyric. What I like about Dorothy Fields is her use of colloquialism and her effortlessness. Listen to this lyric. Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worry on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear that pitter-pat? And that happy tune is your step? Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. In the late 1920s, Jimmy McHugh asked Dorothy Fields if she'd be interested in writing a show for the Cotton Club. And this is what Dorothy said. I would write for the Westchester Kennel Club. I don't care what it is. I just gotta do it. So the two of them made their debut on December 4th, 1927. Interestingly enough, this same evening, Duke Ellington and his famous band made their debut as well. So everything changed on September 29th, 1929. The stock market crashed. It was Helen Keller who said, "When one door of happiness closes, another one opens. But often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the one which has been opened for us." So Dorothy and Jimmy headed west. Where did they go? They went to Hollywood, where all their colleagues were there. The Gershwin brothers, Rodgers and Hart, Oscar Hammerstein, Cole Porter, Jerome Kern, Irving Berlin, they were all there. It was the golden age in Hollywood. Soon after she arrived in Hollywood, she was asked to write the songs for a musical called Swing Time with none other than the great Jerome Kern. Swing Time was a classic, is a classic. Songs like Pick Yourself Up, I Won't Dance, A Fine Romance, and of course the Academy Award-winning title, The Way You Look Tonight. Interestingly enough about A Fine Romance, usually Jerome Kern liked to write the music and then have the lyrics written afterwards. But for this next song, the movie studio said, we need a sarcastic love song. Dorothy wrote the lyrics and Jerome wrote the music. Listen to some of these clever lyrics. A fine romance with no kisses, a fine romance, my friend, this is. We should be like a couple of hot tomatoes, but you're as cold as yesterday's mashed potatoes. A fine romance, you won't nestle. A fine romance, you won't wrestle. I might as well play bridge with my old maid aunts. I haven't stand a chance. This is a fine romance. And as I said, in 1936, Dorothy Fields won the Academy Award for the best song, along with Jerome Kern, The Way You Look Tonight. This was the first female lyricist ever to receive an Academy Award. How impressive. And what about that song, Pick Yourself Up? President Obama used this lyric in his first inauguration address. Listen to this.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America.
Okay, I've been chitter-chatting, but let's listen to a performance of one of my favorite songs by Dorothy Fields and Jimmy McHugh. I'm in the mood for love. I love this song for its innocence, and as a voice instructor, I love looking at this vocal technique. Check this out. Folks, there is so much information about Dorothy Fields. I could be doing 20 spotlights on her. But I wanted to share with you some of the research books that I read that you might be interested in. First one is called On the Sunny Side of the Street, The Life and Lyrics of Dorothy Fields by Deborah Grace Weiner. The second one is Pick Yourself Up, Dorothy Fields and the American Musical by Charlotte Greenspan. And of course, I Can't Give You Anything But Love, Dorothy Fields and Her Life in the American Musical Theater by Kristen Stoltz Presley. Broadway Books 2021. This is an amazing book, so richly written. You learn about the Cotton Club, Florence Ziegfeld, and some very interesting facts, unknown facts about Dorothy Fields. As I told you, Dorothy wrote over 400 songs. So where do you begin? Check out some of these titles. Remind Me, Make the Man Love Me, Don't Blame Me, Dig-a-dig-a-doo, Blue Again, He Had Refinement. It's not where you start, it's where you finish, and nobody does it like me. Hey, listen, thanks for watching. And if you haven't checked out my other spotlights, now would be a great time. Check out my website. I have 2 on Ira Gershwin. I have a spotlight on that landmark musical Showboat. And then my most favorite and my most recent is Spotlight Goes to New York, the people and places of the original musical theater. So check them out. And since you're right there, could you like this? Maybe subscribe? If you think you know someone that might be interested in this video, would you share it with them? Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it.